Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Not much. It's clear that we're getting older, Marcus. You're sleeping on your shoulder and having a bad shoulder. I'm staying up too late trying to watch film and kind of struggle busing today. So,
Yeah.
But you know what? We're getting older. We're getting wiser. We may not be moving as athletically, but we are moving more efficiently. So we're gonna get into this tape and talk about some good, solid, very fun to watch Cowboys football.
Yeah, speaking of guys that are moving very athletically and efficiently, we're going to talk about Micah Parsons and the rest of the defense today in our All-22 review. Let's start there, Landon. It was, again, Micah Parsons at defensive end in this game. They did a lot of different things with him in this one, but what did you see from Parsons on tape?
Well, first of all, I really think that we should start off by kind of commending Dan Quinn for the job he did. I think that they did a fantastic job of just finding a whole bunch of different combinations of fronts to use to kind of make sure that they could get Micah Parsons in the matchups that they wanted. They used Randy Gregory really well.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we'll talk about the individual players who had a good game, but I just wanted to kind of mention all the different fronts, the 2-4s, the 5-0 looks in the passing downs. Just really, really great job of mixing these fronts up to kind of get the matchups that they wanted, which really helped them. Micah looked fantastic again. I mean, even despite going against a guy like Lane Johnson for a couple of different snaps, Lane had a hold. I think he drew a holding call, at least one against Lane, and there are a couple other snaps where it felt like he got the better of him. So it was quite a jump in competition for a guy that's playing defensive end, only for the second time since high school, to go from a backup right tackle from Storm Norton, world beater Storm Norton to Lane Johnson. So it's quite a jump up in competition. But I don't think it was.
They didn't get embarrassed out there, right?
Yeah, and that was the thing, right? We were talking about it, it's like it's you're going from worst to first in your competition. So there should be a noticeable drop off. And there wasn't a huge drop off. It wasn't like suddenly, he doesn't belong at the position or anything like that. So I thought that Parsons had a solid game, created some pressures, had a pass deflection, was wrecking shop, was definitely affecting the quarterback. And again, considering the competition he was going against, that's great news for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I've got a feeling the Cowboys are probably going to leave him there going into this week against the Panthers, right? Because they just don't have a lot of defensive line depth right now, right? And I don't know how much about Carolina you've studied yet, but their tackles are Cam Irving, who we're very familiar with, right, Landon?
Yeah, oh, yes.
And then Taylor Moton, who's been struggling a little bit this year. So should be a little bit easier of a time for Randy Gregory and Micah Parsons this week. Sticking with the defensive line, we're going to kind of go back and forth by guys that played well and maybe the guys that didn't. I want to talk about Chauncey Golston. This was his first game action in the NFL. No preseason at all. He recorded 2 pressures. We saw both of them. Certainly wouldn't call them the most high-quality pressures in the world, right? In fact, I think one of them, I'm shocked that it was called a pressure, but he was okay. Like, I think he's actually better in space than I thought. He was a little bit more athletic, but it's still clear he needs a lot of work.
I mean, I think he was way better than I expected. I mean, and I also think that he played maybe 3 times as many snaps as I expected.
Oh, yeah. Well, they had no other choice, right?
He played 30 snaps. What I was shocked in was just how decent he was when they kicked him inside. There was a couple of different lines that they showed where it was Parsons, Osa, Chauncey Golston, and Gregory, and that was kind of their like a pass rushing line that they had, and it was pretty effective. I mean,
Golston's it's not that surprising
though,
because we kind of had a feeling Golston's role in the NFL might be this sub package rusher, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always kind of envisioned him as an outside guy, but it's difficult, man, to play in the defensive tackle spot inside. For a defensive end in general, and especially for a rookie defensive end. I thought, with that kind of context, that he played a really good game for what, for a rookie who missed all of training camp and is only a 3rd round pick. So I thought that he played pretty decent. He definitely was not like a waste out there. He was definitely getting, you're right. The pressures were not exactly high quality pressures, but he was involved in getting people loose. He was involved in springing people loose.
It wasn't like he was a negative out there. Right?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's what I was getting at, is that he held his own for a rookie starting his first game with no training camp. He certainly held his own. And again, not only played better than I expected, but played way more than I expected.
I want to continue to talk about the defensive line because there's so many storylines here. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about BetOnline. We are back and better than ever as all eyes are now turned to the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That is double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use promo code NFL100. BetOnline, the easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, I want to talk about Randy Gregory because if you looked at the stat sheet, you might not even know that he played. He did not register a tackle, a sack, anything like that. But he was fantastic in this game, Landon. I believe he drew at least 2 holding calls. It might have been 3, if I'm remembering correctly. They moved them all around. His effort was incredible. I thought Randy Gregory played really, really well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I remember 3, but I definitely remember 2. The holding calls that were called again that he drew. He was just all over the place. They were using him on the outside. They were looping him in. He was trying to win on the outside. He was breaking, forcing people loose, shipping people loose on stunts. Mm-hmm. One of the lineups, again, going back to Quinn and his fronts, one of the lineups had Parsons and Gregory inside a tackle, and then Osa as a defensive end, and then somebody else pretty odd as a defensive end outside. Basham. That's what it was.
He got a holding call on that play. Gregory.
Yeah. So, they were definitely moving these guys around to try to get their best pass rushers good looks against the guys that they wanted. And I think that it really worked. And Gregory was just getting a lot of attention. I think that's a lot of why, the stat line wasn't necessarily huge, but the effect that he had in the game was clear. I mean, he was getting a ton of attention. He was the guy that they were afraid of outside of Parsons when he was on the field. So there was a lot of sliding and shifting towards Gregory's side to kind of compensate because they knew, the Eagles, if anybody, have a long memory on exactly how dangerous Randy Gregory can be against their offensive line.
Yeah, I thought Gregory was really, really good. We should also talk about Osa Odighizuwa.
We are definitely.
We can talk about the sack. The sack was really nice. He actually had 2 sacks. The one sack was more of a hustle stat, which actually leads me to my next point. He's on the all hustle team right now. Like, his effort on every play is incredible. Like, there was a play in the end zone where the Eagles punted. It was on 3rd down. He's running all the way across the field, sprinting to chase Jalen Hurts to the sideline, and Hurts just has to throw the ball away. Like, that stuff from your defensive tackle is really, really good. The one sack that he had where he basically just beat Dickerson right off the snap and grabbed Jalen Hurts with one hand and threw him right to the ground was pretty impressive. Yeah, just like a big clothesline is really what it was like, right?
He got close to being called a clothesline, but he got him right about the chest level, which is perfect.
Perfect. I want to throw a comp at you. I saw Bob Stern tweeted out the other day, and I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are. He said, young Michael Bennett. What do you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting comp. I think Bennett was a guy that they mixed in, the minute that would get mixed into the defensive tackle position. this guy's stronger than Bennett is.
He is. Yes.
And I think as a pass rusher, I certainly see it, and just kind of in his body type, I see that to a certain degree. Again, and I can see why Bob would say that, especially with all the snaps that not all the snaps, but with the snaps that you saw Osa taking on the outside as well as on the inside, right?
Right.
I like that comp. I think, for me, he is
He's
little
so
bit more
stronger.
stout. Yeah, he's so much stronger. He's stouter in the run game. He can anchor better because he has incredible leverage. I mean, all the reasons that I loved him coming out of college are the reasons that he's having success. It's just, it's that not everybody is able to tie it together. There's that other aspect of your personality and your work ethic and your intelligence that kind of plays in there. And he, a lot of these guys have the kind of blend of talent that he has. Maybe not a lot of guys, but there are people with his blend of talent, right, that don't succeed. So you got to give him credit as a person because he's playing he's aligning all over the place. He's allowing them to move. He's allowed the defense to move him all over the place because of his ability to know what his assignments are. And I think that, you're seeing pretty advanced stuff from him. I mean, like the hand usage that he's using inside. I mean, it's so difficult because things happen so quickly inside versus the outside. But the way he's got a swipe down, he's got a cross chop down. You can just see him lifting elbows to get free. Landon Dickerson is also a rookie, and Osa looked like 2 years ahead of him. It's so. I think that it shows you kind of the kind of person and player that he is. You're just with that kind of flexibility, that kind of low center of gravity combined with explosion
and long arms.
And long arms. That's going to give you an early head up in the NFL, and it provides you an opportunity to kind of mix it up early in a career when in a position that most people don't really.
Defensive tackles historically struggle as rookies, right?
Absolutely.
Even if you're a top 5-6 pick, you struggle as a rookie.
Yeah, and I think again, like this shows you kind of like he has that kind of blend of physical tools that can allow you to succeed early, but it still requires a very, very strong effort on your part to kind of get yourself to a spot to be able to play like that. So kudos to the coaching staff and kudos to Osa, who is clearly just a very professional player and very professional in the way he approaches things.
I love Osa. He's just so much fun to watch.
Yep.
We talk about him all the time. Let's move on to a different guy. I got a hot take, Landon, and I don't really feel like it's a hot take, and I think you might agree with me. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Through the first 3 games of the season, Trevon Diggs is their best defensive back. That's not the hot take. Don't worry. It's not the hot take. It's going to get real spicy here in a second. Their next best, let's say back 6 defender, right? Your linebackers and your corners and your safeties is Jayron Kearse. And I don't even think it's close, Landon. I think Jayron Kearse should be an every down starter for them. Like, he was fantastic in this game. He covered Zach Ertz multiple times on 3rd down, and it was incompletions. He had to play that on that screen where he kind of fought through the trash and made the tackle. He is playing outstanding football right now. And trust me, I did not see this coming when the Cowboys signed him. I did not like what he did in Detroit at all, but he's just a perfect fit in the scheme. I think he's playing outstanding.
I don't know if this was Freudian or if you actually did it, but when you said the best defensive back on this team, I heard you say Kearse up front, not Diggs.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't know if you slipped or if I misheard.
No, I said Trevon Diggs is the best, and then it's Kearse.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. Either way, then that just kind of shows you kind of where my brain is at. I agree.
I have to make that clear. Diggs is still the best one on this team.
Yeah.
I think Kearse is the next best defensive player, in that back group.
I don't think I disagree. I mean, I think what you've seen is a guy who is comfortable playing the position that he's playing. Look, I think if you go back, and we talked about this with Kearse when he signed, the path to where he is now, which I think is the optimal path, right? I mean, obviously, you can't expect him to play better than he has, frankly, was that he didn't ever really get a full opportunity to kind of settle into a position as a defender. He has always been a special teams ace. Like, that's what the Ravens used him as, and then I think, was it the Jets he went to next? I can't remember, but they used him a little bit more in a way that that kind of fits, his skill set. And you saw it with some of that tape when he played with the Jets on a terrible Jets team, but you saw it that, he was putting the defensive side of it together, right? It didn't seem like he was as good a defensive football player as a special teams football player.
I think it was with Detroit, right? With Detroit.
Yeah. Oh, that Detroit. That's what it was. Yeah, not the Jets. I think that what's happened is that time on task. Besides, you build up that confidence as a special teams player. Hey, I can play in the NFL. I have the physical skill set. Then he gets more time on task at these previous stops, a little bit more time playing defensive football. Then he comes to a team where they actually believe in him to be a defender. We saw a lot of this in training camp. Mm-hmm. And in training camp, it was tough to tell. It was tough to tell exactly how good he was because so much of his game is based on physicality, and you don't get to see a ton of that in training camp, right? Or at least you don't know how it translates necessarily well into the regular season. Clearly, it is translating. Clearly, he is all over the place in coverage, as a physical presence. He really is what made that game plan work last Sunday, because the Cowboys were short linebackers because of the fact they had to kick Parsons down. They lost Neal. The guy that came in to play that role for Neal that they needed, the tight end eraser, the overhang defender, when they went into their 5-1 formations where they were using 5 deep down linemen and then 1 linebacker, the only way that you didn't just get run gashed all over, they didn't just check into runs all the time, is because your overhang slot defender was Kearse. And he basically functions as either a defensive back in passing downs or a linebacker in rundowns. So
I've got his splits here according to Pro Football Focus. So in week 3, he played 56 snaps. 24 of them were in the box. Okay. 9 of them were on the defensive line, basically just that overhang defender, as you mentioned. 10 of them are in the slot. Basically, when you're talking about those defensive line slot corner snaps are about the same. It's just whether I think it's almost a yard difference, right?
It's like when a will splits out to a slot corner. That's
so basically,
they'll still call that a slot. Basically.
We'll call those 19 as that overhang defender, 3 as a wide corner, and 8 as a free safety beyond 15 yards. Like, he is really a linebacker in this scheme. And do you know what's made him so good so far, Landon, is he's got so many tackles. I don't even remember what the number is. Has not missed a tackle yet.
He doesn't miss tackles, though.
If you're a box safety, you cannot miss tackles. And that's what he does.
Long arms really well. And speed. That will really, really help. And again, it goes back to what you need in a versatile defense. If you're going to be multiple in an offense or a defense, you need these versatile players. In the past, we've had a very straightforward scheme and a straightforward defense. So the idea of getting versatile players never really appealed to us, because what's the point? They're just playing a different role in the same scheme. Versatile players in this scheme are incredibly valuable because it allows you to move around other players. Guys like Kearse allows you to move someone like Parsons around because he can fill in a little bit on that linebacker role that you're missing when you move Parsons down to defensive end and that sort of thing. So all of that's very valuable. It's incredible to have like a collection of 3 or 4 players that are versatile in the way they can play, but also extremely talented in the multiple roles that they are fitted in.
So there are advantages to having a vanilla scheme like we've seen in Rod Marinelli in the past, right? Because you can sign guys off the street in the season and have some success with those guys, right? Like that was the advantage for so long for Dallas, is they did not have to spend a lot of money on defense because you can kind of find anybody to be a 4-3 defensive end if you need that. However, when you get really good coaching paired with talented players, you can see it already in the first 3 weeks, right? Like they held Justin Herbert to, was it 17 points? Like you're able to confuse quarterbacks and you're able to, Philadelphia was so off their game in this one. It's ridiculous. They scored 21 points in this game, but 7 came on defense and the other 7 came with 3 minutes left in the game, something like that. You basically shut them down and you forced multiple turnovers. Listen, I think Dan Quinn deserves a ton of credit for what he's done so far. Not only kind of transforming the defense, but doing it with all these guys being injured, right? No DeMarcus Lawrence, no Neville Gallimore, no Kelvin Joseph. Like the hits just keep coming and they somehow just keep getting better and better on defense every single week. Great job by him. All right, we're going to take one more break before we get to the offense. So I want to tell you guys about Built Bar. You know Built Bar. It's the absolute best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you will get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, talking about the offense, Landon. Do fullbacks matter if you can just put a guard in there and they do the exact same job, just better?
Yes, they still matter.
Oh, okay.
Because if they're playing the position, it's about, he's not an offensive lineman when he's lining up as a fullback.
It's a position.
he's a fullback. Yeah. So
how long before we get the Spider 2 Y banana play to Connor McGovern in the flat?
Here's the thing. There's a step in between there that we're missing, right? First, the next game we're going to see is Zach Martin playing fullback.
Oh, that would be fun.
Because ultimately that is what we're working towards, is Zach Martin being the fullback, taking some lead blocks, right? And then the play action pass to Zach Martin, a la Travis Frederick and Zach Martin in their pregame warm-up.
Yes.
So we've been watching Zach Martin catch passes for the last 7 years or whatever it is. So I'm ready for it to happen in the game.
By the way, Connor McGovern was really good as a fullback in this one. Every time they put him in that role, he just buried his guy. So listen, I'm not going to say
Saints-like, right?
What's that?
Very, very Saints-like, right? To kind of put in another offensive lineman and kind of just move him where you need him for a block. That's something that you see Sean Payton do all the time.
And that Kellen Moore has this ready to go. They're going to take a play action shot down the field with Connor McGovern as a fullback, right?
I'm only half joking about the Zach Martin thing. I mean,
I don't know if Zach
everybody mark this right now. Mark this right now, because week 12, when Zach Martin catches a pass out of the backfield and rumbles for 12 yards and probably fumbles, I told you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, I don't know if Zach Martin's ever going to be taking a snap from the backfield, but I'm telling you, there's going to be a Connor McGovern target this year. I'm just telling you, it's going to happen.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, a guard target is happening at some point.
It's absolutely happening. I probably goal line on the 1 yard line. They're just going to try to sneak him out to the side. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Some great bootleg where he just slips through the line because everyone thinks he's blocking. And it's
going to be so good.
Waving his arms to the back.
It might even be a jump pass from back.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be fun.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the rest of the offense. Kellen Moore, man, he had the Eagles so confused in this game. It was ridiculous. The touchdown to Dalton Schultz, the first touchdown, he put that safety in such a bind, and he was in conflict because I believe it was Amari on that same side. And both of those guys they were running a scissor route, and the safety had no choice but to go to Amari, which made for an easy throw to Dalton Schultz. Philly just never felt comfortable the entire game long. There was times where they had a 5-man box in Dallas, and Prescott just checked into a run, and there was a massive runway that we could have gained 7 yards on, Landon. Just an outstanding job by Kellen Moore in this one.
Yeah, I mean that scissors concept, he had been running it out of 12 personnel with both Jarwin and Schultz, and then finally when he scored that touchdown, he brought in Cooper to kind of be the post guy, and then Schultz ran what was almost like a 7 route, except he kind of turned inside and just faded, it was almost like a fade actually, kind of. So. It was beautiful play design. The only play call that I thought was a little bit questionable was that the play that Philly scored the defensive touchdown on. I don't think you would manage to get 4 yards on the QB sneak to start that drive to give yourself some breathing room. I just don't. I think the Mannings actually commented on this during their broadcast in the game. I don't love the idea of calling a play call where you're asking the quarterback to hold the ball in the red zone. Yeah. I mean, in the end zone. End zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because simply, beyond
there's too many things that can go bad there.
Yeah, you could get sacked. What happened can happen.
Safety,
you get a hold. You don't even have to get this. You don't have to be tackled in the end zone. All you have to do is get a hold of someone in the end zone. And
there was one other call that I didn't like, and maybe you disagree. I believe it's the second down where they were inside the 10-yard line. It was actually the drive where Dak scored the touchdown, but the refs decided to keep the game close and he didn't score.
The reverse? Was that what it
Yeah,
was?
the reverse to CeeDee Lamb. Like, that has to be blocked so well because it takes so much time for CeeDee Lamb to run behind the quarterback. Like, if you want to run the little kind of the jet action right in front of it, right? Like the little basically toss pass. I get that because you basically have to make one guy miss in your downhill. That just required too many moving parts, and it's just too risky at that stage of the field. But other than that, I thought Kellen Moore was really good.
Yeah, I think the defenders were too compressed there, which
Exactly.
gave them, very little room that they had to travel to get the angle back on Lamb on the reverse.
Yep.
And then it became a really bad numbers game for the Cowboys once he got the ball, and Schultz did what he needed to do. He bumped the first guy, got to the second guy, but I mean, even if Lamb beats his first guy, there was still at least another two unblocked defenders behind him. So, yeah, I agree that call was maybe one that they wish they could have back. There was that sequence where Dak kind of forgot to motion Zeke into the backfield. And that was the broken play, if you remember, where he hands off and realizes Zeke's not there and kind of runs for a few yards. That's not on Kellen, but there was also another play right after that where they did like a play action to the flat, and it just like, they didn't have enough. The numbers were bad. They had kind of shut off a whole side of the field because they ended up rolling Dak to that side. It just really limited their options. So there's a couple of ones that you're just like, I don't really love that play call. But for the vast majority of this, he was in his bag, man. I mean, just everything from the way that they had the formations in there, all the dressing on the run game, motioning across and then using split action with your tight end, and then just really just, never giving Philly a clean look at what they're doing in the run game. And then, just keep putting your offensive linemen in a spot where they're getting great angles on those blocks. You're not having Steele have to engage a defensive end and bury him by himself. He's down blocking the guy into the guard, and then they're pulling a guy around. So I just thought that they put the Cowboys offensive line in the best possible situation from a run blocking stance. And I think that really showed the results in what ended up happening with the Cowboys run game.
So I am a firm believer in Landon that you do not need to run the ball well to utilize play action, right? Now, it's a little bit stretching to say you don't need to have a running back in the backfield when you do play action to run that successfully, right? However, I will tell you this. Go back and watch that play. The linebackers were so confused. They didn't know what to do. So you would think they would react to a fake handoff to nobody in the backfield like, okay, come on, guys. Singleton took a step forward, so it might actually work. Like, you might not actually need a running back in the backfield to run play action.
That's pretty funny. It's funny because the reason that probably happened is because they had 3 or 4 other screens previous to that where they had decoys where guys were going like this, like CeeDee Lamb was going like this, like trying to decoy. So they probably thought that Zeke was being,
I don't know.
Pretending.
It's hilarious.
And he was like,
though.
"Oh, what's he doing? Wait, what's going on?" And they were just so ready for like the trick play that when the play was over, they're like, "Oh no, wait!"
So confused all game long. It was absolutely crazy to watch. 2 other things. Just I want to point out on the touchdown or not the touchdown on the play, the big play to CeeDee Lamb where he almost scored. If you get a chance, watch Derek Barnett on that play going against Tyron Smith. He goes off the line of scrimmage and he tries to give him a long arm and he's like, it's not worth it. And he just kind of stands there. Tyron Smith just being as good as he is, it has to be demoralizing for edge guys.
Barnett's just such a snap jumper. That dude's always been a snap jumper. That's like I was never a fan of him coming out. He's been better pro than I thought, but that's been his whole game. And if he can't jump the snap, he sure as heck isn't beating Tyron Smith one-on-one. That's for sure. Along those lines, on that same play, did you notice Cooper?
Cooper's arms were up before the ball was even thrown.
Cooper celebrating the reception to Lamb before Lamb even jumped for the ball. I think it was just he knew exactly what was going to happen. Clearly, they had rehearsed that one quite a bit. I think that was a really fun sequence in the game for sure.
I got one more stat to throw at you before we head out. All right. Do you know who leads the NFL since 2019 in yards after the catch per reception at the tight end position?
Wow, really? Is that true?
It is true. That would be Dalton
Wow.
Schultz, man. I mean, I'm not saying that he's the most athletic tight end in the world, but he's pretty good after the catch. Like, he's always been a strength of his.
I mean, I posted that picture like, what, your tight end can't score from this spot? I mean, if you go back and watch, when he squats down to change position, there are 5 Philly defenders.
Yes, all of them should make the tackle.
All should have made the tackle on him, and he made all of them miss. And I don't know if that's an effort thing because it was late in the game and they're just like, oh, God damn it. Or if it was just, Schultz, top gunned them, basically hit the brakes and they flew right by. But either way, I think that was just an impressive play. Schultz had a really great game. I mean, I made Dave to the MVP after that. After the game, and I stand by it. He really did have a fantastic game.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz really developing into a really nice player. I mean, I think he's going to get paid this offseason, probably not by Dallas, and that's okay. I think he's going to get a really nice paycheck. I'm excited for him because he's been really good over the last, 17, 18 games now, basically since he's become a full-time starter. Very, very happy for Dalton Schultz. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys. The account's back, by the way. I know it got suspended for a little bit, but it's back now.
We're back, baby.
Yeah, we're back. We're not going to let that happen again. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you guys next time.